Hey Rockhounds, I know it's been a while. My computer's broken, so I don't know how long it's going to take for you to see this. I don't even know if we're going to get there because this is severe flooding, I'm told. It looks that way too. We're up in Huntsville area. We're heading out looking for some beryl, a couple of other areas. I guess we'll see what we can get to. And I'm told that Huntsville's actually flooding downtown, so we'll probably see that later. We were intending to go on the Walker trip, but looks like it was booked. So this is our stand-in for that. Then we're going to go to Flamborough, which is always a real nice location. So this is not looking great for Jeff and I here. We were told at the outfitters there was snow here and a road washout. So I don't know if we can get as far as the Two Rivers occurrence. I think that would be a success. Pretty well got a digging up the side of that hill. As far as getting across to there, I'm not too optimistic. So when you've got a granitic pegmatite, which most of the deposits in this area are, what you're looking at really is quartz, feldspar, mica, all that kind of thing. And then of course the quartz make a huge big vein in the middle, and that's where you're finding a lot of the minerals. From the surface, you're not going to really be able to tell too easily, just because it doesn't wear away. However, if we were looking at, say, something like a calcite skarn, the skarn wears. It's like the furrows at Bear Lake or the Gibson's property or the Schickler occurrence. They wear away quite easily, and it's easy to spot. So yeah, okay, you can look across the river and you're able to see a depression, but that's more a case of people digging. You know, the original miners trying to blast open. I believe they were looking for uranite and rare earths. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll put a correction up here if I am wrong. I don't think I'm crossing this river today. Not happening. There's your furrow up the side. There's your waterfall. A lot of rubble there that can be dug in, looking for the crystals. How far? 16.5K. Okay, 16.5K. Okay, so we got a plan. We're heading down toward this particular pegmatite, and don't worry, people of South River.
About 1 kilometer to your destination.
No, further than that. 16.5. People of South River, don't worry, we will not expose the exact location of your mineral deposit. Or will we? This must be the river, South River. Quite sizable. So we're east of South River here. We're actually up here looking at a quartz pegmatite, some distance up this trail. So we're going to head up. I mean, it is a beautiful rainy day. Sometimes raining is not conducive to mineral exploring. We brought a tarp with us in case we need to stretch it between the trees, so we can work in relative comfort. Quartz pegmatite, as I say, not always easy to spot when it hasn't been actually worked on already. In this case it has been worked. I understand it's a trench. Usually when you find old documents talking about this kind of trail or logging trail or whatever, pick the most obvious one when there are many. It's usually the one that's survived over time and is more likely to be the one that was used for mineral exploration, especially considering, as I've always said, look for the crushed rock on the trail wherever there are bumps and dips, and also they're most likely to use a good trail or build their trail to a certain level if they're intending to extract minerals. Looks like someone wasn't doing their job. Blast here. Now to find the trench. Look at this for erosion, old tire tracks. I guess this was an old track. Just the whole hillside here is just absolutely riven with them. And in heavy rains, you can see what it's doing. So I mean, serious bushwhacking. There are definitely places that have been dug, but I'm not finding a pegmatite fissure here. might recall last time I did a thing like this at the Gibson property, what happened? Well, let's go. Oh, everything's flooding. So we are just south of Sundridge now. We kind of gave up looking for the Arctic quartz deposit. It was a nightmare hacking through the woods, but there's some real good road cuts in this area, but you want to be picky. You want to get the ones with the white layers in them and the white veins, not just the solid rock, the sort of peach colored rock. I mean, just at a glance, right away, first spot I get to, huge, large crystals of granite. Kind of promising for this spot. You know, so you've got quartz, you've got feldspar.
It might be garnet.
You've got a white feldspar, I believe, in here as well, a sodium feldspar, I believe. You've got mica. Now here's a nice friable vein. I can see garnets, easy to get at, nice and loose. I mean, if I can see a garnet there and a garnet there, means there'll be more garnets possibly inside it, loose, even possibly bigger. I just got myself a garnet octahedron. There's a really beautiful sort of feldspar. So as it gets darker, that's usually the potassium feldspar, and the lighter, the white stuff, is the sodium feldspar. So feldspar pursterite can have many lighting effects. You know, you can have you got all sorts of different things. So, you know, like a sodium feldspar might interlayer with very narrow layers with a potassium feldspar, and you get these certain types of lighting effects. So you might have little inclusions causing what they would call a schiller, as you'd see in a sunstone, which is near here. There's a place near here in Sundridge that has sunstone, and it's basically little tiny flecks from which the light touches within the stone, and it shines back out, and it twinkles like somebody switched on little fairy lights within the stone. You know, that's something, that's a lighting effect from within the stone. Then you might have other lighting effects, like for example an iridescence, which is appears to be on the surface of the stone, like a peacock kind of thing, right? So when you're looking at the rock, okay, you can tell it's metamorphic. It's been changed by the pressure and the heat and so forth, and it's banded out. But now you see down here what you'd call an igneous intrusion. You've got granite that's squeezed up in the cracks, hot granite. So obviously this took place first, and then this squeezed in afterwards. And often when you're looking at road cuts, you want to see these sort of igneous intrusions, like say calcite that's formed in here, and you'd want to look along the edges. That's where you're going to often find crystals, especially when you're looking at calcite. So sometimes with these, granitic pegmatites, you're going to find rare earths. You can maybe find zircon as an accessory mineral. Beryllium, that is something that occurs in this particular area, just north of Huntsville. Just a whole host of really interesting, other minerals aside from the basics, feldspar, mica, quartz kind of thing. So usually what squeezes up into these veins and so forth in what you see in the road cuttings usually comes from the same molten parent material. So one vein here is usually not too dissimilar from another vein. If you find beryllium in one, you're going to find most likely beryllium in another. In this case, you're finding garnet. So you find garnet in one, you're probably likely to find it in another. All of these molten intrusions in one area seem to come from the same parent material. But keep in mind, of course, by the process of fractional crystallization, the actual content of the parent material, the molten parent material, changes over time because the crystals drop out and deplete the molten material in certain elements. Yeah, I like that. Turn it over a tiny bit. Oh, good. Downtown Huntsville. Beer store's not happening. Looks a bit like Venice. The Venice of rockhounds. No dinner at Moose Delaney's tonight. Day 2, Magnetowan. We're heading towards Magnetowan and the Manitowobbing Rapids Florid occurrence. So Jeff, myself, yesterday we headed up to the, Arctic quartz deposit, and discovered that it was nowhere to be found Hence the reason there's so little said of it on the internet. The river's getting pretty high in Burk's Falls too. Don't know if it's crested yet or not. On the wrong ramp, we're back on 11 almost. We're trying to find Magneto-1. Just did a Yui. I think we found it. Is this the west or the east we're going? We're going 520 west to Magneto-1. Okay. This is Magneto-1, as you can see. Everywhere in northern Ontario right now is in flood. April 2019. Just the water's blasting through here. Yeah, so this is just quite an interesting spot just outside Armic Harbour. Yeah, this is cool. So you've got fragments of other rock entrained within this molten sort of intrusion that had come up. Probably wall rock, you know, that's broken off and caught within it. I'm going with this being probably a igneous intrusion of calcite, molten calcite, it's entrained a bunch of debris from the walls. Looking down there, that's more like a marble. I can see the sort of crystal structure, and it's really hard. It's not a thing you can easily scrape like calcite. That's more so that you can, that's a lot softer there. So it could well be that this material, which had been dolostone or limestone, was probably affected by the heat of the intrusion. Actually, we're traveling down the 124. That was actually a place called Dunchurch where we just looked at that road cutting. Armic Harbour was a little further back. I get confused. Doesn't really matter. Just go down the 124. You know, it's this is the odd road cutting, and you know the ones I'm showing you, what I show you is what's jumping out at me is quite interesting. It's a fluorite occurrence. So we're right in the vicinity of the Manitowobbing Rapids, hoping we can go upriver to locate it. We've just done a complete circle. I can't believe how this happened, just wandering in the bush somehow. If you're talking fluorite, you're typically expecting something coming up from deep down with super hot water being deposited generally in cavities, pockets and things like that. And this rock, I see no signs of fissures that may have conducted the water. I'm not overly optimistic as to finding fluorite in this area. Who knows why they named it what they named it. So here we are just above Burk's Falls. I believe this is Forestry Tower Road. Really interesting road cut. I mean, look at this here. Okay, this is a big feldspar crystal that will have formed while this was still a melt, right? So this would have formed first and then hardened, and then this would have formed afterwards. So a big feldspar crystal protruding into a still molten quartz. So this particular vein, I'm seeing these incredible purple flashes. Obviously a peristerite of some type. You probably can't see it. I'll have to do a close-up, but right there, being an example, very translucent. So sadly, it's isolated within very small patches, but it's just right deep into the stone. Like the stone itself is glowing. You know, it's almost like a spectrolite. That's like a tourmaline here. There's a green. I believe it's a green tourmaline, I think. I mean, this is just a beautiful face with a really amazing intrusion. Especially, I love this. This is what they call the graphic granite look. You get all those little squiggly, what they call cuneiform crystals. I'm just being really careful because that there looks like it can break down really easily. So I'm just really looking. We're kind of doing a bit of work down in the bottom here, just kind of looking at what's fallen off the face. I guess you know, this is our first Rockhound trip out, Huntsville area. This, you know, 2019, Huntsville, Burk's Falls. We sadly tried to get into the barrel deposits of the area, and that wasn't working out. There was too much ice on the roads. They were pretty well snowed under, floods everywhere. Nevertheless, stay tuned. This is going to be hopefully a year where we get out quite a bit and see a bit of stuff.